Now, first off, what is the box telling us? Right, it's telling us that Brian Lara is a world test record holder. I'm gonna be explaining to you what is a test in cricket. So this is a Brian Lara officially licensed product. It's a game by Codemasters, branded as Sportsmasters. Sportmaster. We see this got a save feature, and it says battery backup, but it doesn't actually have a battery. It's a EEPROM. What else? Let's get to the good stuff. The back of the box. It's usually where the good stuff is at. Look at that quality back spine with the Brian Lara picture on the title sheet. All right. Let's see what we got here. Brian Lara cricket. Let's see. Brian Lara wrote his name into the record books with a majestic innings of 375 for West Indies, the highest score ever in a test match. I'll say right away, and this is a lore spoiler, that that record was since surpassed by none other than Brian Lara. It got to 400. I think that's the... Yeah, either 400 or 501. We'll see. We'll see about that. Just weeks later, he was again in record-breaking form, reaching a phenomenal 501 not out for Warwickshire, the greatest score achieved in first-class cricket. Yeah, so he bested his own 375 with a 400. It was basically 4 centuries. That's how you call, yeah. A century is like 100 runs scored in a single inning. And it was the only one that scored 4 centuries in a test match or something like that. We're going to look at that later. Hundreds, or is it 100s of fielding animations. Now it's your turn to compete against the world's top teams. Whether you play test matches or exciting one-day internationals, ODI for short, you'll have full control over batting, bowling, and fielding. Brian Lara cricket is the most authentic simulation ever. Yeah, now that I remember, this game was kind of the one gripe I had with this game was like the fielding was default set to manual, and of course it was pretty hard to get the best of the CPU with that. And given my rules of difficulty default settings are harder, I didn't actually put that on auto, even though the game is definitely more enjoyable like that. I'm probably not gonna do that either. I also found a cheese in Brian Lara 96, which is the sequel to this game. Then when I tested the test match, sorry for the wordplay, the cheese didn't actually work. 1 to 4 player option, real-time 3D perspective adjustment. Bullshit. Save your game using NVR battery backup. What are you talking about that? I don't even know what NVR stands for. Play one-day internationals or test matches. Spin, swing, and fast bowlers. Superb digitized sound effects. Manual and automatic fielding. And 3 different skill levels. Well, what do you know? Maybe this one defaults to automatic fielding. The sequel defaulted to manual for sure. I'm gonna be getting to what a test match is, but for sure it is a match that spans across 5 days. Basically, that is a thing. This game is not endorsed by any player or team other than Brian Lara. Alright. Brian Lara's world test record, 375 runs, West Indies versus England. Scored in, that's in the 16th, 17th, and 18th of April, 1994. So you see that's across 3 days. Mungo, thank you very much for the... No, fuck off, Mungo. Cool J, thank you very much for the gift sub to Mungo. Mungo Meat, enjoy your gift sub. There you go, fixed it. Oh, non-volatile RAM, there you go. Makes a lot of sense. Hey, Megagoat. And enjoy the memes, Mungo. Thanks again, Cool J. Thanks a lot. Look at Mungo getting his high-resolution crasher emote and using the old low-res one. Oh, what a beast. What a beast. Alrighty, so we got through the back of the box. That's cool. Now let's talk about it. Let me resize it quickly. Let's see. There you go. All right, Brian Lara Cricket. This is a video game, a really good video game, mind you, developed exclusively for the Sega Mega Drive by Audiogenic Software. It was published by Codemasters in May the 12th, 1995. It was mainly released for the European market, but Australian and South Africa regions also saw its release. Now, this is the first of the only 2 cricket games for the Mega Drive library. This one and the sequel, Brian Lara Cricket 96, which we already covered in this channel. Well, we played through it. We did not do lore for it, but you get the gist. It's got a sequel, which is pretty much the same. We'll talk about it briefly. Now, Brian Lara Cricket itself reutilizes the engine from the 1993 video game Graham Gooch World Class Cricket, a video game for the Amiga, Atari ST, and IBM computers. Here's a screenshot. If you look at this screenshot a little bit, you will realize that the game we're about to play looks exactly the same as this. Exactly the same. Now, this game was also, of course, developed by Audiogenic, since I mentioned it uses the same engine. And this was actually a follow-up to the 1985 Graham Gooch Test Cricket. Here you go. It came out for computers as well, but like the previous generations of them. The box is for the Specky version, Spectrum, ZX Spectrum, British computer. So this released on the Acorn Electron, on the BBC Macro, on the Commodore 64, and on the Spectrum. Always courtesy of Audiogenic, of course. Now, these games were held in very high regard at the time, and they were considered the top options for cricket simulations. So what we're looking at here is a valuable legacy for sure. But what is cricket? A trilogy, it sure does. I'm about to tell you. Hello, Rio, and everybody else in the chat. Same engine, but not same graphics. I beg to differ. These are pretty much the same graphics. Alright, so what is cricket? I'm gonna be giving you some notions, and I'm gonna be telling you how to play cricket. And I'm gonna do that first in a simple way, and then in an idiot-proof way. So it's gonna be good fun. It's gonna be good fun. So I'm gonna explain to you so you may enjoy a game of it if you wish to. Now, if you're familiar with baseball, this will make sense quickly, or at least it's supposed to. If you're not familiar with baseball, it's still simple enough on the surface. Of course, I'm not acquainted with the deep lore and the deep strats, but who cares right now? Now, in cricket, there are bowlers, and there are batsmen. Now, the bowler is the one that bowls the ball. The batsman is the one that strikes the ball. All right? Okay. Now, the red leather ball is a bit bigger and heavier than the baseball one. It is bowled by the bowler, all right? With this motion, actually, which is pretty hilarious when you see it in action. I still remember my first time like it was yesterday. I laughed my ass off really hard. Now, where were we? There's the bowler and there's the batsman. All right, pretty easy. Now, the ball is bowled by the bowler, whereas the batsman swings at it with a cricket bat. So if you want to call him pitcher, whatever, you get the idea, right? Now, the cricket bat, a cricket bat is typically a cane handle attached to a willow wood blade with a flat front. So already you see how more manly this is than baseball. But, you know, spiritually speaking, manly, because cricket is played at a very high level and a very followed level, especially in Indian countries, I think. From female teams, they're very, very popular and successful as well. In general, like the show business of it. Now, let's talk a bit about the bats. The bats are interesting. The bats have to be actually knocked in. That's a technical term. They have to be knocked in before they're considered suitable for use and considered able to strike a cricket ball at full strength and without damaging the bat. The batman, exactly, Tango Bunny. Now, roughly speaking, the process of knocking in a cricket bat consists in applying a layer of linseed oil on the bat and then striking it repeatedly with a softer cricket ball for hours, and then repeating the process. Now, a softer cricket ball would be a cricket ball that isn't new. See in the picture here, there's like a cricket ball attached to a stick, right? Something like that. Now, the test to see whether a bat is being knocked in enough is simple. A fingernail is typically pressed on the bat, and if it leaves a mark, if the fingernail press leaves an indentation, then the wood is not compressed enough yet. Now, there's also automatic machineries that perform the knocking in itself. You see in this picture, there's the ball thing that knocks in the bat is in motion and it's out of focus for that reason. Right. Well, EEP ROM was more expensive though, Mega Goat. At least that's what I heard. But I wouldn't know. I guess if they went for that, it was either, but could be a number of reasons. Maybe space, maybe parts accessibility. But what I hear is that EEP ROM is more expensive, which is why not a lot of games use it. Yeah, let's keep explaining cricket. Now, there's a bowler throwing the ball, and there's the batsman that, while receiving the ball and trying to strike it, he is actually trying to guard the wicket. Now, this is a very cool aspect of cricket. Now, you need to understand, it's very simple. It's not in baseball. Basically, the guy that holds the bat is defending the cricket from being hit by the ball. That is your job as batman. Right. Now, as you can see from the rightmost picture, a wicket is a set of 3 wooden stumps with 2 bails on top. 2 little wooden things. They're called bails. Now, those bails on top are the bowler's objective. The bowler is trying to hit the wicket so that those 2 bails fall down or just dislocate. Now, here's a very cool thing. In modern cricket, those bails can have lights on them. LED lights on them. Look at that visual shock. And that way it's easier to see when they go down, especially for the umpire, which is a referee, especially so at night. Now, these LED wickets were conceived by Said Bronte Eckermann, and the setup costs around 40,000 American dollars, which is why players are no longer, when that is used, allowed to celebrate by taking the wicket off and messing with it in any way. Exactly, Bo. I see that you are getting the sport. Wait, I forgot to do something very important with the stream, guys. Please wait about that much time. Okay, done. Now, the objective when you're throwing the ball basically is this. You don't have to hit the wicket in any particular spot. All that you have to do is to dislocate those two bails up there. That's what you're trying to do. Hey, Lonely Demon. What's going on? Now, this is similar to baseball. The concept of run, it's even easier, right? It's even easier. Now, while the ball is hit by the batsman, so if the ball is struck, player on the batsman's team can try to score runs by running back and forth between the two bases, right? There's only two runners and two bases. You just go back and forth like this, guys. It's very simple. Like in the game, you press one button to decide whether to go for a run or not. And typically speaking in cricket, running is very simple. Like, especially in test matches where they go for 5 days and the number of runs scored are typically hundreds. You don't go for risky runs. There's no base stealing. There's nothing like that. Like the fielders on the batsman's side are the two guys doing the runs, and the fielders on the bowler's side are the guys trying to catch the ball on the fly or just catch it and toss it back to the base, so to speak. It's a very simple sport to understand on the surface when you're not familiar with it. If you follow the explanation, or if you didn't even, and you have any doubts as to the basics that I just explained, please feel free to type in the chat, and I'll do my best to explain it even numberly. Preamp tubes? What? I don't know what that is, but I bet that's a sick joke. Now, batter gets out by... Yeah, that's actually the next line I was going to read. Now, if the ball is caught by the fielders on the bowler's team, then the batsman is eliminated. Like, that's about it. You have to catch the ball on the fly. There's other ways, I bet, like fouls and shit like that, but if you actually do want more rules than that, here's a nice link. They're even including the paste bin. But aside from that, that's all you need to know right now, just to enjoy the game. Is this some kind of cricket home run? Now, although it is possible, and it happens, that the ball goes out of the field, I'm not familiar with the home run concept in cricket being actually a thing. Never happened to me in-game. It's very unusual given the weights of the ball and the fact that you're aiming for the wicket, so the ball arc is always low. You know, it's not as common, and no, not really a baseball thing. Duke Donuts. Let me hear this shit.
Let me explain to you how cricket works in the simplest way possible, so that you might enjoy a game of it if you wish to. If you're familiar with baseball, this will make sense quickly, otherwise it is still simple enough on the surface.
There
are bowlers and batsmen.
And the batsman.
Cricket, pizza, spaghetti, pomodoro, bandiera nera, pizza, spaghetti, pomodoro, bandiera nera, pizza, spaghetti, pomodoro, bandiera nera, pizza, spaghetti, pomodoro, bandiera nera.
Thanks to the cheat, Duke. Freaking copying my lore text to paste it on the text to speech. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And hello. Now, that's the basics, right? Now, just explain to you how cricket works. Now, let's take a look here at how cricket was born and what is cricket? What's the etymology of cricket and stuff like that. Now, well, visual aid was very important for what I just said. It's not so important from now on, at least for the history shock section. So let's have a couple pictures there. This is the oldest surviving cricket bat in existence. You see, it's marked 1729. That's pretty sick. Whereas this is a picture of the evolution of cricket bats throughout the ages, rather. You see, this one looks more like the one on the left, Or the last one looks more like the ones they currently use. It's probably a pretty recent one. Now, these are like from a collection if you read the plaque or something like that. Anyway, the history of cricket. Hey, Red Funk. The history of cricket. Let's go. Oh, wait, we got extra rules. Megagoat says, hitting over the fence like a home run is worth 6 runs in cricket. Reaching the fence after hitting the ground is 4 runs. Nice. I don't think hitting the fence immediately is worth anything more than 4 runs. But yeah. Basically, the vast majority of the times the ball is hit by batsmen, which is very often, more often than baseball for sure, the ball will straight off hit the ground first and then bounce. And I hear there's a big difference in that, whether the ball is new or used. You know, a new ball, there's some occasions, strategy-wise, where a player will favor a new ball over a not new ball. But most of the time, people want to not play with a new ball. They want to play with an older ball, a ball that was already used. So much so that I recall reading that one of the rules in cricket is, or at least used to be, that the ball in play has to be used, and it has to be like you gotta keep using the same ball unless it's lost for some amount of time or innings or runs or whatever, something like that. But yeah, thanks for the extra lore there for sure. Now, the history of cricket. The word cricket in its first tangible appearance was spelled cracket, like this. Perhaps originating from the Old English crick or cries, or from the Middle Dutch word crick. All these words mean stick or crutch. Now, there's other theories, but given the trade connections with the county of Flanders in southeast England during the 15th century, the Middle Dutch derivation is the most plausible. The evolution of cricket from there is not exactly defined in history, as the sources are pretty scarce. Now, county cricket was not a thing yet up to the 17th century. Remember that county cricket is a mode in the sequel to this game, but not in this one. Likewise, the strong gambling factor that characterized the 18th century cricket is nowhere to be seen in the references that I found in history documents. Now, gambling was a big factor in cricket at the time. It was such a big factor that the sums betted were so large, people would bet so much on cricket that the Cavalier Parliament in 1664 enacted the Gaming Act, effectively limiting the bets to £100. Now, if you think that £100 then, from more than 300 years ago, are about £15,000 now, kind of makes you wonder how fucking much they would bet before the Gaming Act. That's a good name, the Gaming Act. Hey, Meteor Shield. And then, with freedom of press taking place in 1696, cricket was now being covered in the newspapers for the first time. Although for the next half century after that, the reports were more about the gambling still, and less about the game. And the coverage in general was not frequent or complete in regards to the actual games. Now let's do a big leap in time to 1909. It's the year 1909, when the Imperial Cricket Council was established. Imperial Cricket Council, ICC. On May the 15th, with Australia, England, and South Africa as the founding members. Now, although at first only countries within the Commonwealth could join, you had India, New Zealand, and the West Indies joining in 1926, and then Pakistan in 1953. And you know, those are names that if you know about cricket, they'll ring familiar because these are the countries that most play cricket. Now, South Africa in particular had an on and off history with the whole thing because of its leaving the Commonwealth in 1961, but also because of the apartheid, the racial segregation. Now, in 1965, the notation changed from imperial to international. And so you finally had, that cannot be read at all, the International Cricket Council. There you go. That actually allowed countries outside of the Commonwealth to join. So the membership has a hierarchy to it, and there's a distinction between full members and associated members. While the ratio is approximately 1 to 10 over 105 countries, there are in fact 12 full members and 93 associate members. Now here's a list of the full members, which gives you an overview of which countries are the most cricket influenced in the world. Now, these are in order of seniority for the full members. You had Australia, England, and South Africa, as we say, in 1909, founding the thing. Then you had India, New Zealand, and West Indies in 1926. You had Pakistan, 1952. You had Sri Lanka, 1981. You had Zimbabwe in 1992. Then you had Afghanistan in 2017. Oh, I got New Zealand written twice here. I just forget about it. Now, cricket is a big deal. Like, if you don't know cricket, you're gonna have a hard time imagining this. But in some countries, cricket is like soccer in Brazil or soccer in Italy or American football in the States. There's a literal cricket craze in some countries and cities like Mumbai, for example. And that's with particular intensity since the establishment of the IPL, the Indian Premier League, a 2020 format league, with its first season running in 2008. Now, I just say 2020, and we've been talking about tests. What is that? What are we talking about? Now, there's 3 formats. There are test matches, there are one-day internationals, ODI for short, and then there are 2020 internationals, T20 for short. Now, the oldest and most traditional format is the test cricket. The players typically dress white clothes and play with a red ball, with matches lasting 5 days, 7 hours each day, with 2 scheduled breaks for lunch and for tea. Each side gets to bat twice, with unlimited number of overs being bowled until both innings are completed. Although not as intense as the 2020 format, which is the closest to baseball if you want, and the one Brian Lara played the most, the test format is considered the apex of the sport, as teams are tested for technique and endurance over an extended period of time. Now, ODIs, one-day internationals, are more of a standard format, with matches lasting around 7 hours and being completed in a single day. Then T20s, 2020 matches are the most recent kind of matches. They are characterized by explosiveness, and they bring new tactics and a new audience to a sport that's usually played over a course of a few days instead of a few hours like the 2020s. That is what I got for the history shock. Let's move on to the hero here. A literal hero of cricket throughout the whole world is Brian Charles Lara. Zenki. Now, this video game is the first of the many video games. I think it's 7 games they made about Brian Lara. This is the first of them, which is endorsed by the highly successful and very famous player Brian Charles Lara. It doesn't actually have an official license with any of the cricket associations. Brian Lara is the only player whose likeness is in this game. As we mentioned, we're talking about an absolute legend of the sport as a whole here, with multiple world records and an astounding career as one of the best batsmen of all times. Brian Charles Lara was born on the 2nd of May 1969 in Santa Cruz in Trinidad and Tobago. He got a very early education in cricket and got off to a good start with a solid batting technique. At the age of 14, he started his development as a promising cricket player, getting 745 runs in the school league, earning a selection for under 16 team in Trinidad, National Trinidad under 16 team, at the age of 14. The next year, a 15-year-old Lara would play in the West Indian under 19 tournament. And that's the team where he plays at in the video game. Like, you can play as Lara if you select the West Indies team, which is what we're gonna select, of course. All the other players are like fictional. Now, Lara is a stellar player with several world records. Some of the most remembered ones are the highest individual score in first-class cricket of 501 not out in 1994 for Warwickshire against Durham. And it's the one reported on the back of the box of the video game even. Like you see, just below Brian Lara cricket, it says World Test Record Holder. This is like a world record that still stands. There's also his highest individual score in Test cricket of 400 not out in 2004 for the West Indies against England. And that's funny because if you look at the back of the box like we did earlier, you see the same record, the same match, West Indies against England if I'm not mistaken, still by Brian Lara, but it's an older one. It's like 375 or something. It's eventually topped his own record. He also had the most runs scored during a player's career at almost 12,000 until recently Sachin Tendulkar surpassed him. This guy. Yo, Skip Natty. Cricket Shark, History Shark, Lara Shark. Thank you. Thank you very much for the 4 months. Thank you so much, Skip Natty. Appreciate it. Perhaps his coolest record is that he was the only player to score a quadruple century in a test match. I think that means 400 runs in a single inning. Or rather, it's probably like a century is 100 runs in a single inning. So you could score like 2 centuries, a century in the first inning and another century in the second inning. I think the standard for a test match is 2 innings. So it could have been 2 centuries in the first inning and 2 centuries in the second inning. It's gonna be cool because I want to score a century as Brian Lara in the video game, and you get a little animation that we never saw in the sequel because we haven't played the test match in the sequel. We played literally every other mode. We saved test mode, so we had something special and unique to play in the first game. Now, in 2017, the Brian Lara Cricket Academy, which is a multi-purpose stadium in Trinidad, was completed. Hey, OVG, thank you. What's going on? Now, let's talk a little bit about the reception for this video game. Because that is my Lara lore coming to an end there, but the lore as a whole is not yet over. Don't get too comfortable. Now, Codemasters was not expecting the success that this video game, Brian Lara Cricket video game, achieved. They surely did not anticipate that they would be making around 7 Brian Lara video games in total. The game was not anticipated to do well, The expectations coming from interviews with retail did not anticipate that. Yet, it sold 80,000 copies in 3 days and eventually went out of print to favor the release of Brian Lara Cricket 96, which released exactly 1 year and 5 days later. Yeah, the cricket bat is a nice tool for sure. Cricket bat is a nice tool, Skip Netty. A run is when both players do this. Both runners do this. There's the batsman and another dude in front of him, and then just have to exchange places. That's a run. In baseball, you have 4 bases, and you have to hit the home base to get a run. In cricket, this is sufficient. 1 run, 2 runs, 3 runs, 4 runs. It's going to be extra clear during the game. Now, let's talk a little bit about the sequel that we did play already in the Megamarathon. There's a specific reason why I want to be talking about the sequel. Specific reason hailing from Australia. Right, so the sequel of this game is, of course, Brian Lara Cricket 96. The sequel adds a few modes, and it still has the task match, which is, of course, the first game's main mode. Now, Brian Lara Cricket 96 includes several extra modes. You have the World Cup and international tests. You have historic matches for the player to experience. And there's even a county cricket tournament. It's like the Codemasters Cup or something, regional teams that you can play as. Now, perhaps the most fascinating addition is the advent of the rain in the sequel. You can have rain stopping the game, and there's a cutscene. It's super fucking cool. Like, the coolest thing about the game is like suddenly it rains. There's a cutscene where staff members cover up the inner field with a giant sheet, and then you just wait for the rain to go out. Like the true fucking experience. That's so good. The rain can also alter the pitch physics. The bowling physics. But the main reason why we want to talk about the sequel is its Australian release, which is super interesting. Now, for the Australian release, the sequel's Brian Lara license was swapped with that of the Australian Shane Warne. Probably mispronouncing that, but Shane Warne was literally the greatest leg spin bowler in whole of cricket history, and one of the only 2 players to have achieved more than 700 test match wickets. Remember, the bowler has to hit the wicket. That is one thing that is unique to cricket that is not in baseball, that you immediately see and go like, what is that? The bowler has to hit the wicket with the ball so that those 2 bails up there fall down. That is cricket in a nutshell. Shane Warne, the strongest leg spin bowler to ever live. Yet, at least. Now, Shane Warne had a pretty outspoken personality, for sure. On the left, you see a picture of him being very young, and he used to always like get this weird makeup thing during matches, different colors. On the right is a more recent picture of him being on Tinder. So, if there's any Australian vaginas or dudes interest, make sure to install Tinder. But we're not going to be playing this game. Although, why not? Maybe someday, why not? We're going to be playing Brian Lara Cricket, and that is the lore I had. That was pretty good lore. Haven't done such a big lore in a while. Hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, I'm right. I'm pretty sure that is a thing, yes. And Shane Warne had a huge spin to his balls, which usually threw his opponents off. Ball gripping, good fun. Yeah, the that cover is something.